Patrick Beverley had time to pick apart Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns, calling Paul a lousy defender, saying he should have been benched in Game 7, while also saying that no one in the NBA is scared of the Suns as a collective. We gotta fact check him on this. The beef between Paul and Beverley has been a thing for a while. According to Beverley, it all started when he was invited to LeBron James's annual Skills Academy while he was a sophomore at Arkansas. There, Beverley reportedly dominated the competition, including CP3. And since then, things have been chippy every single time they faced off. Just last season, in a game between the Suns and Clippers, Beverley was ejected for throwing an elbow at Paul. In Game 1 of the 2021 Finals, Beverley was issued a flagrant 1 foul call for this contact on a jump shot by Paul, and Beverley mocked him afterward. And in Game 6 of that series, Beverley was ejected for shoving Paul in the back. Paul also dropped 41 points in that game to eliminate the Clippers in what would be Beverley's final game with Los Angeles. Ouch. The reason for all this animosity is quite simple in Beverley's eyes.
And he does, Chris, he does slick shit. Like, people don't know that's a little dirty man. Chris know that too, man. I know you didn't want to say it, but I say it for you, though.
I say all that to say there's definitely animosity between the two. And that's clearly the motive behind Beverley's recent comments. But he might be right on some of it. His first point, Chris Paul is a lousy defender.
He can't guard. He literally can't guard.
He can't guard.
Yeah.
He can't. Chris Paul can't guard anybody? Is that what you say?
Did you see that? No, he can't.
At 37 years old, the 6-foot point guard is not the defender he once was in his prime when he was a 9-time All-Defense member through 10 seasons from 2008 to 2017. This season, the Suns were still a slightly better defense with him on the floor. And the advanced numbers show a mixed bag, with some indicating that Paul is a positive defender, while others say he's nearly a net neutral. Most of the time, with how smart Paul is on the court, he can get away with being undersized. Paul was exploited in the Mavs series against the larger Luka Doncic and the more physical Jalen Brunson, who were constantly hunting him on pick and rolls. Not to mention, Paul was reportedly dealing with a quad injury throughout the series, which hindered his abilities on that end. But that relates to Beverley's second point, which is that Paul should have been benched in Game 7 over DeAndre Ayton.
They benched the wrong person. Should have benched Chris. And I'm not saying bench him now. Once you see they starting attacking Chris early, and that might become a problem later on, you need to see how my team works without Chris in the game a little bit.
In the final 5 games of the Mavs-Suns series, Paul averaged 9 points, 3.4 rebounds, and almost 6 assists a game in 32 minutes a night. This comes after Paul averaged 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists on 62, 42, 100 shooting splits through the first 2 games of the series, and put up a near-perfect outing in Game 6 versus the Pelicans in Round 1, where he didn't miss a single shot. He was clearly not himself once the series shifted to Dallas, and if he was injured to the point where he was hurting his team, he should have been benched. Almost the exact same thing happened in the Lakers-Suns series last year in the playoffs, where Paul hurt his shoulder and was limited because of it. Now, the Suns ended up winning that series because the Lakers were dealing with injuries of their own, missing Anthony Davis for the final 2 games, but the point stands. If you're hurting your team, you shouldn't be playing. And finally, Beverley said no one is afraid of Paul and the 64-win Suns.
Boy, scared of Luka. Ain't nobody afraid of anybody over there in Phoenix, man. Everybody in the league knows that, bro. Like, it's just that y'all don't know that because y'all not in the locker room. No one's afraid of Phoenix. We wanted them.
Let's look at the evidence. After a regular season loss to Phoenix this season, Golden State Warriors forward Draymond Green said that the Suns don't scare him. Shaquille O'Neal said on his own podcast that the Suns, quote, don't have anybody that scares you. Beverley himself said Paul George isn't afraid of them.
I talked to some teammates. I ain't gonna say who because I'm gonna say who, forget it. I talked to Paul George last night, man. Pat, ain't nobody scared of them.
And in the Mavs-Suns series, we saw a 23-year-old Doncic go toe-to-toe with Devin Booker and Paul, trash-talking in the process, only for Doncic and the Mavs to come out on top. Essentially, for a team that talks as much as the Suns do, they sure do have a tough time backing it up. As for Paul, the Suns' embarrassing Game 7 loss is a massive blemish on his resume. He's now the first player in NBA history to blow 5-2-0 leads in a best-of-7 series. And while not all of those losses can be attributed to Paul's poor play, it's tough to look past that. History is written by the victors, as they say, and Paul has been on the losing side one too many times. But is Beverley necessarily the right guy to bring this up? Damian Lillard seemed to be put off by it. Former NBA player Matt Barnes felt the same way.
Chris is a 12-time All-Star. He played terrible. First time, all defense 9 times, 7 times first team all defense. He'll be a Hall of Famer. Pat Bev and I were similar type role players. They don't talk about us when we go. They're going to talk about CP3 when he's done. And I just think the disrespect we saw earlier today on the ESPN show need to be checked because he was way out of pocket.
So, what do you think? Is Beverley right with his points, or is he just being bitter? Let us know in the comments. And as always, we'll see you next time.